People ask me, why don't you write to members of Congress or lobby for this or that, or go address, and yes, I have addressed the Senate, committees of the Senate before, in the service of NASA, the interest of NASA, but not because I asked to do that. It's because they asked me to come speak. And so I did the civic thing and appeared to speak and showed up to speak. I have a different view on this whole world than most people do, I have come to learn. Ted Cruz is a duly elected member of Congress. Okay? So is any member of Congress who's duly elected. And they represent a community of people. So if you have someone in Congress who thinks the universe is 6,000 years old, for example, and if that person represents if they're, let's say they're from the House of Representatives, and they represent a community of people who also feel that, that's democracy. They're representing a community, representing the interests of that community. If a community is deeply religious, they're going to elect somebody who's deeply religious. And if that person goes to Washington speaking religious things, you can't claim that that's something weird. That's what democracy is. So I don't have an issue with how democracy functions in that way. Now, the interesting thing about a democracy is you get the government that you elect, okay? So, if people are in Congress who don't understand science, yet have to make decisions relevant to it, that's a recipe for disaster. If people, so people need to be self-aware of what they know and what they don't know before they make policy decisions related to it, because policies affect everybody. Not just your district. So, as an educator and as a scientist, it's incumbent upon me not to run around to politicians and try to tell them what to think or how to think. And I speak to the electorate, to the people who vote people into office. That's what any educator does in a classroom, or in any setting even such as this. So, I will tell you, this is how the world works. And the great thing about science and emergent truths in science is that they are true whether or not you believe in them. This is what distinguishes science from practically every other enterprise we have created for ourselves in civilization. So, the future I want is to get people to understand the value of innovation in science and technology. Get them to recognize that those innovations are the engines of the 21st century economy. Get them to recognize that America is a capitalist democracy, that money matters. Nobody wants to die poor, especially not Republicans. And so in this kind of country, people need to understand the causes and effects of wealth, the generation of wealth, of real wealth. Not just moving money from one person to another, redistributing wealth. I'm talking about actual creation of wealth. And that comes about by being science fluent, whether or not you're a scientist yourself. And all I can do is spread that knowledge across the country and let people vote for whoever they want. And what comes out of Congress, I can't distract myself by that. Not as an educator when I have the electorate in front of me. So, if that's how things shake out, that's how they shake out. And what I really want is to have people recognize the value of these cosmic perspectives, get people to say, well, I want to triple, quadruple NASA's budget, then you only vote somebody into office who's going to do that. Think about it. If I went to Washington if all I did was talk to politicians, I'd have to go back every 2 years. Because 88% of Congress stands for re-election every 2 years. I have to go back. And isn't it simpler to just get everybody to understand what it has to be? Then you can never possibly be the representative unless you know and understand the causes and effects of what I shared with you. So, I don't distract or worry myself about this. And in fact, the New York Times once asked me, what would I do if I were president of the United States? Their Facebook page is saying Tyson 2016, right? And so, I'm flattered and honored by these gestures. However, I replied to the New York Times, and my reply is on my website. Maybe I should post it on my Facebook page, but it's on my website. And because nobody you go to Facebook now. So it's there. And what I said was, to talk about swapping leaders in and out as though that's going to solve all your problems, no. Like when Bush II was president, my academic community was not a big supporter of his, right? Because in academia, sort of your capacity for deep thought is what is valuable, right? And so it was not, so my colleagues are high 90% liberal Democrat anti-war, okay? And so you hear them talk, there's, get the guy out of the office, he doesn't understand this. And I would say to them, 60 million people voted for him. So you can't just go in and take out a leader, put it in something, and think that's going to solve things. We live in a country where people vote. So you can't approach politics as a citizen that way. You do it at the voting booth. You don't do it hitting people over the head who've been duly elected to their respective offices. So that's my reply.
Thank you.